Hi, welcome. My name is Dina, and today we're going to be taking a look at this set of Holbein watercolors that I just picked up. So normally I am a Daniel Smith girl. These are the full-size Daniel Smith tubes, and just to compare, these are the smaller 5 milliliter tubes. And this Holbein set is a set of the 5 milliliter tubes, so the same size as the smaller set from Daniel Smith. Now this set of 6 ran me about $30, so this is similar price or slightly cheaper than Daniel Smith. Just to kind of compare a size, they are the same 5 milliliter size. And this was just the kind of watercolor assortment of 6 colors. It looks like it has a nice range of colors. We have Crimson Lake, Vermilion Hue, Permanent Yellow Deep, Viridian Hue, Cobalt Blue Hue, and Burnt Sienna. So one thing I have heard about Holbein is that they are very pigmented, very rich colors, and that they're non-granulating. So I'm running out of room in my palette. I need to get some empty half pans, so we're just going to squeeze a little bit out into this travel palette. I made some space in a few of these, cleared out a few mixing areas, and we're just going to test swatch these out and maybe try a little painting with them. Okay, there we have our paints tested out here. I do need to get some more of these kind of travel palettes, because this one is kind of my test palette and it's quite full. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 from the Holbein set. So let's just go ahead and test these out and see how they look. I'm going to use my favorite red Sable brush from Blick, size 8. And today I'm just using some kind of generic watercolor paper. This is not 100% cotton. I'm just kind of using something that I don't mind kind of messing up just to play around with. I do like to use 100% cotton paper, but sometimes I practice on cheaper stuff just to kind of see how things go. So I have my water jars over here, and we're just gonna kind of swatch these colors. We will start with I think this was Permanent Yellow Deep. And that is a very, very vibrant yellow. Wow. Definitely one of the most vibrant yellows I've used. And let's get a little bit of the Vermilion Hue. Kind of got a very watery mixture on here, but also a very, very beautiful kind of pure orange color there. And I do love Crimson Lake. Crimson Lake is probably my favorite red, and red is my favorite color, so let's test that out. It's definitely a cooler red. You probably can get it more pigmented. I just had kind of a watery mixture. Definitely love that cooler red there. And these are very nice buttery colors so far. Let's try this Burnt Sienna. A nice warm brown there. All right, here we have Viridian. Not watery enough on the Viridian. And here we have a nice, really blue green. This is almost a teal color. And one more. This was, I believe, a cobalt blue. Oops, I dripped a little water here to kind of see how that water effect is working on our orange. Overall, this is a nice spread of colors. I'd definitely be interested in kind of mixing some of them and seeing how they look together. This is definitely not my favorite green. I do prefer much warmer greens. So I'm gonna just kind of mix in my palette a little bit, try to get a more tree green. We'll mix a little bit of that burnt sienna. And this is definitely my kind of green. Very evergreen pine tree type color. So let's try just drawing a little tree with that and just seeing how this paint moves on the paper. A little too watery at first. So this is not 100% cotton paper, so I'm not going to be able to do super wet on wet. But just gonna do very basic tree shape, maybe drop in a little bit with some darker paint on there. I am loving the vibrancy of these paints for sure. Let's try out maybe like a nice sunflower. I'm gonna try mixing the red and blue here, Crimson Lake and Cobalt to get a nice kind of purpley center. I'm gonna mix this with a little bit of palette dirt just because I don't have enough mixing space here in my little palette. Like I said, I would like to get some kind of smaller ceramic palettes. I primarily use this one for mixing, but I'd like some smaller ones that I can kind of clean between sessions and kind of have as my palette for a particular session. I'm actually really liking how easy these colors are mixing. I feel like I don't really have to work the paint very much to get them to mix. This was just a mixture of these two, and I added a little bit of that orange to give it a little bit of a darker hue. And we have this very inky blue, almost Payne's gray color. Definitely thin. And let's just try just some of that yellow street. Some petals. This is extremely vibrant. I'm interested to see how this paint would look after kind of drying and re-wetting. I do feel like obviously using paints directly from the tube are going to be more vibrant. So I am going to try to get another palette kind of like this, where I can squeeze out and dry some of my new paints that I got. That's kind of how I usually prefer to work with paints. Alright, so let's get a little bit of this, and I'm going to mix that with just a little bit of palette dirt and just a little bit, a little too much of that orange. I'm not used to how vibrant these are, just so we can get another shade kind of going on these petals. So I'm really liking the way this paint is moving. I don't know if I'll consider myself switching to Holbein completely, but this is definitely a beautiful set to have as part of my palette. Let's Mix a little bit of that burnt sienna just so we get some color variation on these petals. And I'm not focusing too much on the shape of my petals here. Now let's get a tiny more bit of burnt sienna and kind of go around. As I said, this paper is not the best for kind of a wet on wet, but just trying to drop in a little bit of darker color to kind of go in the center. Maybe let's add just the tiniest touch of blue to get a nice brown going there. Like I said, so far, definitely loving the way these colors are moving. Now let's give it a nice stem. I guess we'll add a little bit more of the Viridian. I feel like sunflowers have a little bit more of that true green stem. We're not necessarily going for realism, we're just playing here, but just going a little bit for that true green color. So this was a quick little demonstration of the Holbein watercolors. Like I said, I got this set. I want to say this set was around $30, might have been $35. I picked it up over the holidays from Michael's. And this was just an assortment of 6 colors. I don't know if this set has a particular number or anything. It does say W491. A nice range of colors. We have 3 kind of warm colors here with our yellow, our vermilion hue, and our burnt sienna, and then 3 cool colors, crimson lake, vermilion, and cobalt blue. Getting a little bit of some interesting effects, but these are non-granulating colors, and they are moving very beautifully and buttery on the page. Overall, I definitely rank these pretty highly. I say they're pretty comparable to my Daniel Smith watercolors. Just to use a Daniel Smith color to kind of compare. This is Daniel Smith under sea green, I believe. This was definitely my preferred green, as I said. Tried to match this one a little closer. It's definitely a little bit of a different texture versus Daniel Smith. I feel like the Holbein colors are a little more buttery, rich. Daniel Smith a little bit more transparent, and this Daniel Smith color is granulating. So as this dries, we'll see some kind of separation of those blues and yellows, where we didn't really see that here with our Holbein colors. And that's all personal preference, whether you like granulation or not, and it's also kind of dependent on, you know, your project, whether you want that granulation. So thanks for watching. I definitely recommend the Holbein watercolors. I hope you found this helpful.